Nerida and the Perfect Glass. Deep beneath the teal waves lived Nerida, a mermaid with a tail the color of sunset and hair like seaweed silk. Her home was the prettiest coral cave in the whole kingdom. Nerida had a special hobby, collecting sea glass. But not just any sea glass. She only wanted pieces that were perfectly smooth, perfectly round, and perfectly clear. They had to be 100% perfect. One morning, while gliding past the ancient sunken galleon, Nerida spotted it, the most magnificent piece she had ever seen. It was emerald green and shaped like a flawless, tiny teardrop. The magnificent piece of glass was tucked high on a slippery, wobbly mast. "Oh, that's too high, little one," called Octavius, the kind, 8-armed librarian who lived nearby. But Nerida had to have it. She finned up, 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 dodging old ropes and sharp bits of wood. She was so focused on the perfect green teardrop, she forgot about her footing. Sproing, her tail slipped on a patch of moss. Nerida tumbled down, and her net bag caught on a rusty hook, ripping wide open. All her lovely, perfect pieces scattered into the currents. Tears welled up in her eyes. Not only did she lose the perfect green piece, but now her whole collection, her beautiful, perfect collection, was gone, mixing with the rough, chipped, ordinary glass below. Octavius gently approached, holding a few pieces of glass he had managed to catch. One was chipped. One had a rough edge. "They are still treasures, Nerida," he whispered. "Do you remember where you found this purple one?" Nerida took the purple piece. "I found this after the big current race. Coral and I were laughing so hard when we found it stuck in the kelp." She smiled, remembering the fun, not the chip. Nerida realized her great lesson. Perfect pieces of glass were just things. The real joy wasn't in having the best collection, but in the happy memories she made, finding every wonderful, bumpy, special piece. Fastest Flicker's fast lesson. Flicker was the fastest little clownfish in the whole wide reef. He zipped and he zoomed. Everything Flicker did, he did quickly. If there was a race, he won it. If there was food, he ate it right away. "Faster, faster," he squeaked, practicing his loops around the big, wavy anemone that was his home. His best friend, Pip the hermit crab, always told him, "Flicker, you rush too much." One morning, Flicker heard the grown-up fish talking about a special treat, the legendary sparkleberry seaweed, which grew far past the whisper caves. "I'll find it first," Flicker declared, puffing out his cheeks. Elder Current, the wise pufferfish, tried to show Flicker a map of the calm, winding current path, but Flicker just waved his fins. "Too slow," he cried, and darted off down the shortcut, the zigzag trail. The zigzag trail was bumpy and dark. Flicker was moving so fast he didn't see the patch of old, sticky brown kelp blocking the way until it was too late. Whoosh! He was stuck. Flicker pulled and wiggled and tugged with all his might. He tried to swim backward and then forward, but the more he rushed, the tighter the sticky kelp hugged him. He was stuck, stuck, stuck. Flicker took a deep, shaky breath. He had been trying to do it all by himself, but he realized rushing and wrestling weren't working. "Help!" he finally squeaked, his voice very small. Just then, Elder Current the pufferfish floated around the corner. Current didn't rush. He simply stopped, inflated just a little bit, and looked carefully at the tangled fish. "Rushing again, Flicker?" Current said gently. Current told Flicker, "We must move slowly and gently, together." Current used his nose to carefully nudge the sticky strands away. one small piece at a time. Flicker had to be very patient and still. Pop! Flicker was free. He floated next to Current, taking a slow, calming breath. "Thank you, Elder Current," Flicker whispered. "I learned that sometimes going slowly and working with a friend is the fastest way to get where you need to go." Oh, Flip's Bubble Rings. Flip was a small dolphin, full of wiggles and giggles, who loved playing near the bright coral reef. But more than anything, he wished he could leap high out of the water, like his friend Coralia. Every morning, the older dolphins would practice their jumps, twisting and splashing way up in the blue sky. "Watch me!" shouted Coralia as she rocketed towards the sun. "Sproing! Splash!" Flip tried with all his might. He wiggled his tail and took a running start. He launched himself. Plump! He only managed a tiny little splash that didn't even wet the seaweed. "Why can't I jump that high?" Flip sighed, watching his reflection wobble in the water. He swam away from the jumping spot, feeling a deep, gloomy blue sinking feeling in his fins. Soon he came upon an ancient, wise sea turtle named Nereus, munching slowly on some seagrass. Nereus had seen hundreds of sunrises and knew many secrets of the ocean. Flip told Nereus about his jump sadness. Nereus chuckled, a slow, deep sound like the tide rolling stones. "Little Flip," he said, "the ocean is vast. Why worry about how high you jump when you have so much talent right here?" Nereus tapped his fin gently on Flip's nose. "The best thing about you is that you are you. Find something only Flip can do. Try making art with the water itself." Flip thought about the bubbles that rushed past his blowhole when he breathed quickly. He twisted his body and focused his air. Poof! A perfect, shimmering bubble ring floated up. He made another, and another. He discovered he could stack them, paint them with light, and even make them zigzag. Coralia and the other dolphins watched as Flip sent a spiral of rainbow-edged rings zooming by. "Wow, Flip!" cried Coralia. "Your bubbles are magic." Flip smiled, no longer sad about his short jumps. He had found his own unique talent, and it was the most beautiful art in the whole wide ocean. The Starfish Who Didn't Hurry. Deep in the shimmering coral kingdom lived a bright orange starfish named Pivot. Pivot loved watching the gentle current, but sometimes, when he saw the little darting creatures, he wished he could hurry just a bit. Pivot wanted to visit the legendary Great Seaweed Forest, where the bubbles tasted like sweet plums. It was a long journey across the sandy flats. "I'll never get there today," he sighed, moving one ray after the other, inch by inch. Whoosh! A blur of electric blue zipped right past his arm. It was Zoom, the speediest little fish on the reef. "What's the rush, Zoom?" asked Pivot. Zoom laughed. "Rush? I'm already there and back. Slow pokes like you will take until tea time just to cross this patch." "I bet I can get to the entrance of the seaweed forest before you even get halfway across this flat," Zoom declared, doing a speedy little tail flip. Pivot smiled patiently. "Maybe speed isn't the only way, Zoom." Zoom shot off like a tiny torpedo, heading straight for a confusing maze of pink and purple coral towers. "The shortest path is a straight line," he called back, disappearing into the narrow gaps. Pivot kept to the open, sandy seafloor. He moved steadily, carefully weaving around the larger, friendly sea slugs and mapping out the safest route with his sensitive tube feet. He didn't rush, and he didn't bump into anything. After a few moments, Pivot heard a tiny, muffled, frantic splashing coming from the coral maze. He crept closer and saw Zoom's blue tail fin wiggling helplessly. Zoom was wedged firmly between two tight rocks. I tried to be too fast and went straight through the tricky tunnels, whimpered Zoom. Now I'm stuck. Pivot didn't hurry, but he didn't hesitate either. He used his wide, flat, strong body to slowly push against the edge of the large rock, stabilizing himself firmly on the sand. Creak! Slowly, carefully, the rock shifted just enough. Zoom zipped out instantly, completely free. Thank you, Pivot. Your patience saved me. Zoom chirped gratefully. I learned that sometimes being slow is much stronger than being fast. Together, they slowly glided side by side into the great seaweed forest. Pivot realized that his own way, careful, steady, and unhurried, was the perfect way to travel. He smiled. He wasn't too slow at all. He was just right. Wally's big discovery. Wally was a young whale, full of energy and a heart as big as the ocean he lived in. But Wally had a secret worry. All I'm good at, he sighed to his friend Barnaby, is being big. Wally watched the others. The graceful dolphins spun and leaped, sparkling in the sun. I wish I could be fast and bouncy, Wally grumbled, trying a small, awkward tail flick that just made a puddle. He listened as the wise humpbacks sang their beautiful, haunting songs that traveled for miles. I wish I could make music, he whispered. When Wally tried to sing, it sounded more like a deep, rumbling bloop than a melody. Barnaby says my size is important, but how? Wally wondered. Tired of feeling useful only for taking up space, Wally decided he needed to find a place where big meant great. He swam far away from his pod. Wally swam and swam until the water turned murky and strange. He was quite lost. Then he heard tiny squeaks of panic. Near a rocky outcrop, hundreds of tiny, brightly colored creatures were struggling against a fierce, unseen force. A powerful, unexpected current had swept into the shallow area. It threatened to pull the small fish and crabs out into the deep, dark sea. We can't hold on, cried Finn, the little blue fish. Wally saw the tiny creatures being battered. He realized his enormous body, which he thought was just cumbersome, was solid and strong. It was exactly what they needed. Taking a deep breath, Wally positioned himself carefully. He pushed his great side directly against the current, creating a giant, living wall. The current slammed into him, but he didn't budge. Behind Wally's massive body, the water became perfectly still and calm. The little fish and crabs swam into the quiet zone, safe from the chaos. They rested, sheltered by Wally's strength, until the fierce current passed. When the ocean calmed, the tiny creatures cheered for the gentle giant. Wally didn't need to jump high or sing songs. His size wasn't boring. It was heroic. Wally had found his true strength, protecting others, just by being big, kind Wally. Zella's perfect patterns. Zella the zebra lived in a sunny savanna where the grass grew gold and the acacia trees stretched tall. Zella was a lovely zebra, but she had a secret worry tucked right under her mane. Every morning, she watched the other animals wake up. The flamingos were bright pink. The warthogs were earthy brown. Even the little beetles had iridescent shells that shone blue and green. Why did I only get black and white? Zella sighed to the dust. My stripes are so straight and dull. I wish I was sparkly or spotted, Or maybe just plain bright yellow. She rolled and she rubbed, but when she stood up, she was just Zella again. A little messier, but still perfectly striped. A tall neck dipped down beside her. It was Django the giraffe. Zella, why do you look like you just wrestled a giant tomato? Django chuckled, his spots a beautiful pattern of warm brown and cream. Zella stamped her hoof. I wish I had spots like you, Django, or maybe a mane of bright rainbow colors. These stripes just make me look like a fence post. They aren't special at all. Django smiled wisely. Nonsense, Zella. Your stripes are the best camouflage in the whole savannah. They confuse sleepy lions and make you blend right in when you stand still, Django explained. Let's test it out. Hide, and if I can't find you in 5 minutes, your stripes win. Zella trotted quickly toward the tall, swaying reeds near the watering hole. She pressed herself close to the shadowed clumps of dry grass and held her breath. Django opened his eyes and craned his neck, looking high and low. Are you behind the baobab tree? Are you resting by the rocks? He walked right past Zella's hiding spot, completely fooled by the sharp, crisscrossing patterns of light and shadow. I can't find you, Zella. You win, Django cheered. Zella sprang out, dusting off the reeds. She realized her stripes weren't boring or dull at all. They were clever, bold, and perfectly hers. And that made them the most wonderful colors of all.